You were ignored, left behind, and made to feel like a completely disposable option. Right now, your compromised mind is screaming at you to chase them down, to demand a logical explanation, and to desperately remind them of your inherent value. Stop immediately. Yielding to that pathetic impulse is the exact reason you surrendered your power in the first place. This is not a guide on how to plead for crumbs of affection. This is a manual of psychological warfare to conquer your own mind. You are going to learn step by step how to utilize total absence and silence, not to manipulate their return, but to reconstruct yourself so radically that if they ever dare to look back, they will see someone they can no longer reach. The very first maneuver requires you to accept a brutal, unanesthetized truth. You do not require another human being to be complete. The romanticized notion that another person serves as your missing half is a toxic fabrication designed to render you weak and utterly dependent. From an evolutionary standpoint, outsourcing your survival and emotional regulation to someone who has already discarded you is a biological failure. Your fundamental value is inherent to your existence. It is never contingent upon the fleeting validation of a biological peer. When you operate from a deficit, desperately seeking external confirmation of your worth, you signal low status to the tribe. Until you deeply internalize that you are a complete entity, any psychological strategy you deploy will be nothing more than a superficial trick. Acting from the absolute certainty of your own completeness is the crucial first step to reclaiming your sovereign control. Emotional independence is not a manipulative tactic you temporarily apply. It must become your natural, unwavering state of power. To survive this emotional amputation, you must sever the parasitic attachment. You are an entire universe by yourself, capable of generating your own purpose and forward momentum. When you stop viewing their departure as a loss of your identity and start viewing it as an extraction of a weak link, your neurochemistry begins to stabilize. You stop bleeding energy. This cognitive reframing instantly shifts you from a discarded victim into an apex predator assessing a newly cleared territory. Effective immediately, you must enforce a total, uncompromising radio silence. You disappear entirely from their sensory radar. This means absolutely zero outbound messages and zero phone calls. You withdraw every single trace of your digital presence, meaning zero likes or interactions on their social media stories. This is not a fragile game of ego or pride. It is a calculated, lethal declaration of power. By entirely cutting off the communication supply line, you ruthlessly eliminate their ability to extract validation through your continued interest. You are deliberately engineering a sudden, jarring void in their reality, a blank, silent space where your predictable attention used to reside. The primitive human brain absolutely despises vacuums and unpredictability. By starving them of data, your silence forces their cognitive machinery into overdrive, compelling them to wonder, to calculate, and to doubt their own decisive actions. The dynamic is brutally simple. As long as you are actively pursuing, their biological imperative is to flee. The moment you completely freeze your pursuit, the friction stops. When you abruptly halt your forward motion, evolutionary curiosity dictates that they must turn around to observe why the threat, or the threat, prey, has stopped moving. Your total absence acts as a mirror, forcing them to face the reality of their decision without the comfortable cushion of your desperate pleading. You reclaim your dignity by refusing to participate in a game where you have already been designated as the loser. The massive volume of vital energy you were previously hemorrhaging toward them must now be forcefully redirected. You are going to aggressively reinvest that exact energy back into your own biological and mental infrastructure with brutal intensity. This marks the violent beginning of your rebirth. You will step into the gym and punish the iron as if your very survival depends on it. You will voraciously consume literature that aggressively expands your cognitive horizons. You must begin dressing and carrying yourself as the formidable individual you are currently forging. You will attack your personal ambitions and professional projects with a terrifying, renewed obsession. But there is a strict, non-negotiable law to this process. You do not perform these actions to broadcast your progress for their passive consumption. You execute this transformation in total, suffocating silence. True psychological metamorphosis is completely destroyed the moment it is performed for an audience. The most profound structurally sound transformations always occur in the dark, far removed from the superficial stage. By building your new reality in the shadows, you eliminate the fragile need for external applause. You become a self-sustaining engine of progress, utterly detached from the opinions of those who lack the vision to recognize your core baseline value. Human psychology dictates a rapid loss of interest in phenomena that are entirely mapped and fully understood. If you previously operated as a completely transparent open book, broadcasting every emotion and thought, you must now forge yourself into an impenetrable enigma. You must strictly guard your next moves and refuse to reveal your internal strategies. When pressed for information regarding your current status, you deploy calculated, vague generalities. If someone inquires about your life, you respond simply, "I am highly focused on new projects," or "I am experiencing massive growth." Your existence must now possess deep, unreadable layers and an aura of profound mystery. You must ruthlessly accept that not everyone is entitled to a front-row seat to witness your evolution. You revoke their VIP access to your psychological state. This deliberate veil of mystery generates an intense magnetic tension. The human mind is obsessively driven to uncover what is intentionally hidden from its view. People are perpetually desperate to know what they are no longer permitted to see. By restricting access to your reality, you instantly hyperinflate your perceived value in the social hierarchy. You transform from a discarded commodity into a highly restricted premium asset. We now enter the most devastatingly powerful phase of the protocol. This is not about fabricating a fake reality for social media. This is about taking concrete, aggressive action. You must immediately begin architecting a compelling future, booking a significant trip, enrolling in high-level training, or initiating a geographical relocation, and you execute these plans with absolute zero consideration for their existence. A profound psychological shift occurs when another individual independently realizes that your life is accelerating forward with massive momentum, and that the train has permanently left the station without them on board. This realization, discovered through observation rather than your desperate announcements, violently triggers their primal panic of permanent loss. Evolutionary programming guarantees that the visceral terror of losing an asset forever is infinitely more overpowering than the passive desire to possess that asset when it is easily available. By demonstrating relentless forward motion, you trigger their survival instincts. They suddenly realize they miscalculated your value, and the window to correct that massive error is rapidly closing, leaving them alone with the consequences of their poor judgment. If you implement this protocol correctly, there is a high statistical probability that they will eventually attempt to breach your perimeter with a pathetic low-effort probe, a casual text, or a superficial claim that they miss you. This is the exact choke point where the weak inevitably fail. You must not capitulate to the seductive trap of cheap, weightless words. From this second forward, a draconian new law governs your reality. Verifiable actions are the singular exclusive currency you accept. Empty verbal promises and convenient, low-friction apologies possess absolutely zero market value in your new ecosystem. If any individual desires readmission into your operational sphere, they are strictly required to purchase that access through grueling effort, unwavering consistency, and highly tangible proof of behavioral change. You have permanently retired from the exhausting business of negotiation. You now sit back as the sovereign judge, silently observing their maneuvers and coldly deciding if their behavioral output actually warrants a fraction of your highly valuable time. You force them to climb a steep, jagged mountain simply to earn a conversation, instantly separating those who are serious from those who are merely bored. When engineered with lethal precision, your sustained absence becomes your most vicious and effective advocate. It works a relentless 24-hour shift on your behalf, infiltrating their psyche. Every single time they experience the crushing weight of isolation, your deafening absence speaks directly to their nervous system. Whenever they endure a brutal day, the void left by your departure serves as a harsh reminder of the unwavering support they foolishly discarded. When they observe others experiencing genuine connection, your invisible presence forces their brain to interrogate whether they have committed a catastrophic, irreversible error. You are not required to utter a single syllable to inflict this realization. Your disciplined silence is doing the heavy lifting. The combination of your absolute silence and the undeniable evidence of your exponential growth from a distance constructs a psychological narrative in their mind that is devastatingly potent. This internal narrative they build against themselves is infinitely more destructive and persuasive than any desperate paragraph you could ever draft and send. You allow their own imagination to become the weapon that dismantles their arrogance. The ultimate objective is to transform your daily existence into an impenetrable sovereign kingdom, an elite domain characterized by unshakable peace, aggressive forward growth, crystal-clear purpose, and premium experiences. You must establish yourself as the unquestioned ruler of this territory. When you successfully architect a reality that is this dense and captivating, your biological anxiety regarding those who abandoned you completely evaporates. Instead of operating from a state of lack, you transition into a state of ruthless selectivity regarding who is granted the rare privilege of crossing your borders. The fundamental energetic polarity of your life flips entirely. You permanently cease your pathetic search for external acceptance, and you elevate yourself into the singular authority who grants or denies acceptance to others. When the individual who walked away inevitably observes this thriving kingdom from the outside, the reality of their failure will crush them up. They will be forced to understand that they did not merely walk away from a standard relationship, they actively forfeited their position in a rapidly ascending empire. You make your life so incredibly massive that their absence becomes a microscopic footnote. If you adhere strictly to this brutal regimen, you will inevitably reach a staggering psychological threshold, the exact moment you realize you no longer give a damn whether they return or not. You have poured such massive volumes of effort into your own architecture, forging a mental fortress of pure steel and a life of undeniable fascination, that their potential return is violently downgraded from a desperate necessity to a highly negligible option. This specific psychological state is the ultimate undeniable victory. You have successfully waged and won the most brutal war possible, the war against your own pathetic neediness and biological dependence. You have murdered the internal beggar that kept you chained to the opinions of others. The profound irony of human neurobiology is that achieving this exact state of cold, detached power generates the precise energetic frequency that makes you overwhelmingly magnetic. When you genuinely, thoroughly do not need them, you become the most terrifyingly attractive force in their universe, compelling them to return with a desperate intensity they have never experienced before. The grand illusion of the no-contact strategy is the belief that its primary function is to manipulate an ex-partner into returning. Operating under that premise guarantees you remain weak, because your ultimate success is still entirely dependent on the unpredictable decision of another human being. That is the mindset of a subordinate. The true hidden objective of this protocol is to utilize the acute trauma of their rejection as the combustible fuel required to forge your mind and body into unbreakable steel. The mission is to elevate yourself into a state of such overwhelming strength, absolute focus, and total self-sufficiency that their eventual attempt to return is rendered completely irrelevant to your trajectory. You are aiming for the specific day when your device illuminates with their name, and your nervous system registers nothing but cold, flat indifference instead of a spike of anxiety. Paradoxically, reaching this peak of internal sovereign power is the exact trigger that drives them into a frenzy of regret. But by the time they reach that point of desperation, the power dynamic has permanently shifted. The question is no longer whether they will accept you, but whether you will even bother to accept them. Let me be absolutely clear. The design of this manual was never, at any point, engineered to bring them back. The sole purpose was to aggressively pull you back from the abyss. It was designed to harness the burning pain of their rejection as the raw fuel to construct the most lethal, independent, and dominant iteration of yourself. The foundational pillars are absolute silence, unrelenting self-discipline, and a violent dedication to your own upward trajectory. When you successfully forge yourself into the ultimate prize, you immediately withdraw from their pathetic competition. If they ever crawl back, it will be strictly under your draconian terms, at the gates of your kingdom, and if they don't, it is entirely irrelevant, because you are already too consumed with the glorious burden of ruling your own empire. If you are prepared to permanently kill the beggar inside you and start building, subscribe and strike the bell. Solidify your new reality in the comments below by typing, "My absence has value."